Hey YouTube, it's Sean, Griffin RC Planes. We're going to do one last video on telemetry for the folks that have radios like my DX7S or a DX8, the silver transmitters. Not the DX6i, but the DX7S and the DX8 that are silver. Those are the ones that we've been talking about the past two videos, that you can use the Tm1000 telemetry module to go in conjunction with receivers that have bind data written where you put your bind plug. So if you're interested in telemetry data, seeing your flight pack battery voltage or your RPMs or temperature or flight log or your receiver voltage, and you're using one of these radios, or you're using receivers with no gyro, an AR636 or an AR410 or the AR636 like I had in the previous video. If you're using those receivers or these transmitters and you don't plan on upgrading anytime soon, then the Tm1000 module is suitable for you. So there's one other way that you can see some telemetry data with these transmitters and not a Tm1000. That's Simba. In my foam board test plane here is a AR636 receiver. Now, when the receivers, I guess, first started coming out in the bind and fly planes, many years ago, they may not have been updated with the most current software, and when Spektrum, I guess, felt like they'd been for sale long enough, and they were done selling their 636 receiver that you can get all by itself, that doesn't come in a bind and fly, then they created an update that unlocked the potential of the AR636s, and that unlocked the telemetry, being able to use a Tm1000, and it unlocked the flight log and the receiver voltage data that's in the 636. So if you have this transmitter or the DX8 and you're using an AR636 receiver, if it's updated to the current software, then you can see your flight log and you can see your receiver voltage on these transmitters, and I want to show you that real quick. And then I got some recording down on the computer just to show you some other receivers and just some interesting info. So let's zoom in on this transmitter real quick. If you're curious how I have to film the transmitter, this is how I have to do it. This is my tablet that I put in the tripod, because the zoom is so much better than the other cameras I have, and the screen is bigger on this versus my other cameras. Here's the action camera I have, and the screen on the back of it is so small that I won't be able to tell if it's zoomed in or not. So that's how I go about doing that. So we will turn the transmitter on, and then I got to tap on the screen to zoom it in. Then I'll hit record. Then I got to tap again so it zooms and focuses, rather. Focus, that's what I meant. And an AR636 in my test plane right there. Now we'll go over to the other camera. Okay, so we just saw it bind on the other camera. So we are bound to my test plane. You can see the blue flag is our motor. And back down to the screen. So if you have an AR636 receiver and you're using a DX7S or a DX8 and the receiver is updated, then when you're bound right here, you can roll your scroll wheel to the right And you can see we have the receiver voltage at 4.9 volts. And then we have the flight log. And the flight log is really good. You know, that's your signal strength while you're flying. And that's all good information to have. And you can see these two things without the TM1000. So we just looked at my AR636 receiver. And since we're on that subject, I just want to point this out. When the AR636 receivers, I guess, came out several years back, two versions. One came in the bind and fly RC E-Flight airplanes. The other was one you could buy by itself from Spektrum. And you can see the plug in the side of the one you can buy from Spektrum. This is the one that does not come in a bind and fly. That's a plug for a remote receiver plug. So that's how you can tell the difference. Okay. Now, why I'm getting at this is because I told you how if your AR636 that came in a bind and fly, either a 636A or a 636B, if it has been updated with the most current software, then the flight log and the receiver battery telemetry will come to your radio without any other sensors. All that came in this receiver, you know, from the get-go. And then after several years went by, they unlocked all the other 636 receivers that came in the bind and flies, so everybody could have their full potential. But we don't have a way of plugging in a remote receiver. This is what we're all used to. This is the one that comes in the bind and flies. You know, we'll go back to, there's the one you can get from Spektrum by itself with a remote receiver. It's a different color plastic there, and you can just tell. And then keep your eyes out on this one. This is an AR636H for helicopters, and you can distinctively tell the difference because of the two short antennas. This receiver is not programmable. You can't jailbreak it. You can't do anything with it. Trust me, I've tried, and I've emailed them, and you can't do anything with it. So if you see one of these for a good deal and you think you're gonna program it and stuff for your plane, it's not gonna work. Okay, so the AR636H is for helicopter only, and it's not programmable. Here is a AR636 receiver. They're discontinued, but you can still buy them fairly cheap. eBay and everywhere else. This is the bind and data right here. So this can be used with, with the TM1000. And so can this one. This is a 4-channel receiver, and you can see the bind and data right there. So you can use the TM1000 with it as well. And here is the TM1000, discontinued. However, all the manuals, instructions, all that stuff is still readily available, and Spektrum is going to support all that. So if it were to break and you want to mail it in to get repaired, they're still going to do that. They said there's no time to ever stop, really. They're standing behind their products forever. Here is the package where all this, started. See how I've been showing you. If you have a DX8 or the DX7S, the silver transmitters, then you can use the TM1000. The DX6i, no. The DX7, the older version, the one a little older than mine, no. That's the SE model, no. Only this DX8 or the DX7S like I have, or of course the DX18 or anything else. But the other ones are capable of doing smart receivers. But right now we're only talking about using the TM1000 with the older receivers and a older transmitter. That's the only way that I would recommend this setup for telemetry, is if you have this radio or the one like I have, the 7S, and you have no plans to ever upgrade in the future, then the TM1000 idea could be for you. Or you use receivers with no gyro, like the AR400 or this 8000, then the TM1000 could be for you. On eBay here, some telemetry sensors, you know, what do they cost? Can you get them? I use eBay a lot. I sell on eBay a lot. I think eBay is great. So don't be scared of eBay. Ask me questions if you need to before you get started, you know, buying or how to bid or something. I'll be more than happy to help you out. eBay is a great way. Once you get a couple of purchases under your belt, eBay stands behind the purchaser way more than the seller. So they're all about making sure the purchaser gets what they pay for, or they'll give you a refund, no questions asked. Here's some Spektrum Telemetry stuff that's for sale here. Let's see, here's a temperature sensor for $13.99. You can find those cheaper. Here's the flight pack voltage sensor. There's a 2-pin and a 3-pin. The TM1000 uses a 3-pin. There's the GPS sensor that won't work with the TM1000. I don't recommend that GPS either. They're a headache. Here's your brushless sensor for RPM. That will work for the TM1000. This is a Vario sensor for X-bus. This will work with the TM1000. You can see the plug is a little bit bigger there. That's what goes on the side of the TM1000. Let's see here. I'm just kind of scrolling through it. Okay, we talked about if you flew glow engines and you wanted to use the TM1000 and you wanted to see the RPMs on your glow airplane engine. Well, here is the magnetic sensor in bracket. So right above it is the brushless sensor that you've seen of mine that plugs into the TM1000 for RPM. This right here is the magnetic sensor that will, you know, your flywheel turning on the engine. You'll mount this somewhere, and I think it's a magnet, and as it spins, and it'll count the RPMs that way. Here's a G-force sensor that will work with the TM1000. Another G-force sensor that will work with the TM1000. Here's your receiver battery energy sensor right here. This will work with the TM1000. However, you're already going to see your receiver voltage with the TM1000, but this is an energy sensor. So you will see how fast you're using your receiver battery. And let's say you have a glow plane and you've got an onboard glow driver, and you're afraid after a 8-minute flight that your battery might be so low that the glow's not working anymore. This will be a way to monitor the consumption of the battery while you're flying. Just like this one right here. This one picks up the flight pack battery for, like I showed you of mine. It shows how many milliamps are being used while you're flying. Well, that's enough through surfing around. I'm going to click on use real quick. All I did was type Spektrum Telemetry Sensor, right, and it pulled up 120 results. Let's go to the condition and we'll click used, maybe, and we'll see what that does real quick. My computer's a little slow here. Okay, so here's that G-force sensor for $15.95 or best offer. This flight pack energy sensor, that's actually like $4 more than what you can get it for brand new at Spektrum still. Here's an AR636. Well, that's bidding. It's got 5 days to go. Many receivers here. And that's mine. Some car stuff. This is for nitro cars right here. We'll talk about that another day. Here's the TM1000 for $44.99. Says it's pre-owned, but it's from a top-rated seller, so that means it's going to be good quality stuff, and he's not selling you junk. Okay, here's an airspeed indicator. I've got one of these. It'll work with a Tm1000. You can see right there it says Tm1000. That'll show you how fast you're flying with the air going through the pitot tube. All kinds of good stuff. Here's a 7-channel AS3X receiver with telemetry. No safe, but that does AS3X. Oh, we could talk for days about this stuff, guys. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed what we just did on the telemetry for the TM1000. For those of you that have the DX7S transmitter like this that I use all the time, or the DX8, if you have one of these silver transmitters or other receivers like we talked about several times that have bind data where you put your bind plug, then those are options to get telemetry and see the battery voltage, RPM, temperature, flight log, and receiver voltage. And then you can add many different sensors through the X bus. Okay, guys, hey, that's all for this one. I got to get going on our intermediate first video. So, hey, if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please do, and click the like button, and please leave a comment. I need video ideas. I need suggestions. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please leave it in the comments. Anything. It doesn't matter. How do you put the propeller on? I mean, you're not the only one that might need that answer. So say it. That works out great for you and for me. I know what you guys want to see, and now I know what I need to record. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. The next video is going to be our intermediate receiver programming. And hey, until next time, you'll see me here. Thank you, guys.